Okay, we're going to be taking a look here at an introduction to water associated with Chapter 1, Plant Cells and Water. And we'll start with talking about the properties and behavior of water. Properties and the resulting behaviors because of the properties that we're looking at here. So water is represented here. We can, most of you know how to write out the formula for water, and what we're interested in here is in the structural model, the oxygen molecule there, or the oxygen atom. Oxygen tends to be highly electronegative, which means that it pulls the negative charge from a covalent bond towards it. So remember, these are going to be hydrogens here, and each pair of atoms shares electrons in the form of a covalent bond. I just said hydrogen bond, but I mean covalent bonds. So the oxygen pulls the negative charge from the covalent bonds that are between each of these hydrogen atoms. It pulls the negative charge from that covalent bond towards it, giving this end of the water molecule a partial negative charge, and that leaves behind basically these partial positive charges near the hydrogens. So we're never usually looking at one water molecule in isolation. There's multiple water molecules always interacting, which means that these differently charged ends of the molecule, even though the whole molecule is neutrally stable, or is electrically stable and neutral, one side of the molecule is attracted to other parts of other water molecules. So specifically, we might be looking at another water molecule nearby with its oxygen end over here, and hydrogen here and here. So again, we've got this partial negative end of the molecule, partial positive here, partial positive there, and because opposites attract here, we're going to have this rather weak bond compared to covalent bonds, but it's still an important bond that translates into multiple unique behaviors for water, and that's called a hydrogen bond. So a lot of the behaviors that we're going to be talking about are based on the fact that hydrogen bonds form between water molecules. So if we were to basically draw another molecule nearby, this one that we drew, we would again draw the oxygen end here, hydrogen and hydrogen, and there'd be another hydrogen bond that forms there. Okay, so when we take a look at membranes, over here on the far left, we have that phospholipid bilayer, if you remember, which is made up of phospholipids. Oops, here we go. So a bilayer is two layers of phospholipids, and each phospholipid is made up of a hydrophilic phosphate head and two hydrophobic fatty acid tails. So let's make sure we indicate what these are. This is a phospholipid, and it has a hydrophilic head, phosphate head, and these here are the fatty acid tails, which are hydrophobic. Now it's because of the hydrophobic tails being that basically repelling water, that they're drawn towards each other to escape basically wherever water is located. Whereas the phosphate ends are attracted to the water. Now, because the majority of the phospholipid bilayer is hydrophobic, it prevents certain substances from passing through. Basically, what can pass through, we'll make a little list here of what passes through, and we're abbreviating abbreviating through there. What passes through the phospholipid bilayer includes basically really small molecules such as water. Water is a small water molecule, and you see that demonstrated over here. Can actually pass through the phospholipid bilayer, but not at an alarmingly, at a metabolically important rate. The other kinds of molecules that can pass through are non-polar molecules. I'm not getting anywhere with that. There we go. Such as carbon dioxide, which we can, if we draw this out, we can see why that would be true. Why is CO2 a non-polar molecule? Basically, there are two oxygen molecules that are bound, form double covalent bonds with the carbon molecule in the center, and so that kind of evens out the pull on those negatively charged electrons that they're sharing, and it becomes a nonpolar molecule. Same is true for oxygen gas, where even though oxygen is electronegative, there's two of them, they're pulling equally on those electrons, so it's nonpolar. And also nitrogen gas. In this case, it's a triple covalent bond. All right, so those are substances that can pass through the phospholipid bilayer. So what cannot pass through would be hydrophilic molecules, and there's many hydrophilic molecules and also ions. And so they have to utilize things called carrier or channel proteins. Or, let me move this up. And that's, drawn perhaps rather simply over here, something like this, where we're going to see a carrier protein or a channel protein allowing something like potassium ions to come through, or like glucose can't get through without a carrier protein. Over here we can see in this diagram a special type of transport protein called an aquaporin. And aquaporins, let me try to spell this out a little more clearly. And aquaporins allow large amounts of water to pass through the membrane so that it's not slowed down by the phospholipid bilayer. And so it's basically a channel protein with a hydrophilic interior, allowing this hydrophilic water, which is a polar molecule, remember? I don't know if we wrote that down before, to pass through the membrane at, physiologically relevant rates. Okay, a few things. So the fact that water is polar because of the presence of oxygen brings or yields some emergent properties and behaviors for water that are important to all living things. So water, as we know by now, is a major component of all living organisms. And in plants can take up 70 to 80% of the non-woody mass of the plant. This is for plants. Water is it's vital for the functioning of cells because of these important behaviors. such as, if we can tally a little list here, it is used in metabolic processes, or in chemical reactions, and chemical reactions such as photosynthesis. I'm doing some abbreviating here, and also respiration. Water is also involved in various, at some point along the electron transport chains of photosynthesis and respiration as well. But also many, because water is a useful solvent, it's used in chemical reactions as well in that capacity. Another, along with that idea, is that it is an important solvent for the transport of nutrients. So we saw that with our diagram of the physiological processes that are taking place in the plant, including nutrient uptake. And so we're looking at things like potassium and nitrate, calcium, and so forth. They're going to be, mainly ions that are transported, or hydrophilic substances. And then we've got also the importance of maintaining, or basically it helps the plant to maintain the structure of non-woody parts, such as leaves. And we refer to that as turgidity. A plant that's turgid, or leaves that are turgid, because there's enough water that's present in the cells that it creates pressure against the cell walls, and that across the whole leaf allows the leaf to sort of to be more rigid and to spread out its surface area to capture light for photosynthesis, for example, versus wilting, where plants or leaves become less turgid. So it almost helps to support the leaves in much like those secondary cell walls do, providing support and structure. And then we'll add one more here, which is to help maintain a stable temperature in the plant, regardless of whether the temperatures outside are fluctuating. So certain chemical reactions take place at certain temperatures. Proteins, the structure of proteins is maintained at optimal temperatures, enzyme function, and so forth. So water helps to prevent temperature extremes in the plant. One way is through transpiration. Transpiration is the plant's ability to, like our ability to sweat, to help control temperature. All right, so we'll move from here then into the next slide here in the next video clip, looking at specific behaviors of water, starting with cohesive behavior. So we'll move into the next video clip for that.